Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Frank here, working on the bulldozer. I spent some time after the last episode and primed all of the steel that we've assembled here. I have cut the shafts off and put the linch pins in both sides of the tensioner wheel. I drilled and put in cotter pins in these castle nuts that hold the tension arm. And where we left off last time, we had just installed the top links. I haven't adjusted them yet. I'm getting ready to put a chain on, and on this side we've got the chain already measured from last time. We'll put it on, just double check its size, and then we'll shift to the other side and get a chain on over there. Alright, so I just have a couple bolts temporarily in the links. Just want to see if I can tension this chain properly. It's pretty tight. Alright, I'm happy with that. I do need to fix these links here so they'll roll through the sprocket, because they won't right now. Alright, let's see about getting the chain on the other side. Alright, because I have the 10-foot length of chain plus another 5-foot from the second length of chain, I have basically two master links. This is a master link, but it's never going to come apart. I'll have a second master link that potentially will have to come apart. Let me just hit that with the grinder a little bit. I just need to make sure that that joint will fit through the sprockets fine. see. So that welded link has a little bit of play, so that should be fine. I'm going to see if I can fasten the link, this last link together, and see if I can get it on without having to break it apart. In other words, have a continuous loop and just see if I can get it on and off the tractor. I had to grind the length of these pins for the master link, make them shorter. They stuck out too far beyond the other side of the chain link and interfered with the idler pulleys, so I just ground them so they'll be mostly flush, and then we'll just weld it off since this won't ever have to come off again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tack these, weld these together to this link since this is a master link, and then we'll have to count off till we get to 31 links, and then we'll break the chain at that point and then connect it to the other end. Make sure I got the right count, 31 links. And so there's the pin. So you can see how far these pins stick out, pins on the master link. And if you didn't, in a normal situation where it's just going around a sprocket, this wouldn't matter. But you can see how these only protrude maybe, I mean, like less, 1/8 of an inch or less than 1/8 of an inch. So that's why I had to grind the other pins down to nearly flush so I could weld them. I'm not going to weld these right now. I want to fit the chain to the other side of the tractor. I am going to go ahead and grind them down though, just not going to weld them, because I need to get it apart in order to build the tracks, the track pads, and weld the track pads to it. Okay, well, let me just take this out and grind it down. We'll come back. All right, let's see if we can rig something up with a drill to drive this. Okay, so the drive works, the tracks go, the chains go forward and backwards. I need to chamfer the edges of these idler wheels so that the swages on these pins don't get hung up on the pulley. So I do need to come back in here and bevel that a little bit more so that it doesn't hang up. All right, so that's adjustment I need to make. Looks like I lost the link here since I didn't have it welded or anything. Oh, here it is on the floor. It's come off. So it goes right on there. So we'll do a real quick walk around. This has got the track installed, the chain installed and tensioned on this side, and the drill is here to drive the drive shaft. And we'll get some light over here. You can see the chain is installed and tensioned here as well. You get a view from the front. Of course, there's no tracks on it at this point, but we'll get there. All right, so that's what it looks like. Seems to be working. Is there my brew? Are you being a good boy? Are you being Daddy's good boy? Yeah. Oh, give me that paw. Give me that paw. Yeah. Did you see your new bed over here? Come here, Boo-Boo. See your new bed? Doggy's got new beds. Look at that. Yeah. Well, what a good boy. And they're not used to those. They're afraid of them or something. They'll get used to them. Butchie wasn't too jazzed with his either. But all right, where is Butchie? You want a treat? Let's get a treat. Now, of course, here comes Butchie. He heard the word treat, and he's got like super hearing. All right, let me get some boys to sit. Sit. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Butchie. He took yours. Brutus is a little grabby. All right, so they've taken their treats outside and sit outside in the sun. All right. Now that I've got the track chain sized and tensioned on the dozer, I'm going to turn my attention to the track pads. I've changed the size, made them much narrower, so there's a bigger gap. There's a 3/4 inch, right now I'm thinking 3/4 inch gap between the track pads, and there's an 1.5 inch bar stock which will be welded on to provide overlap between the two pads. So what I'm doing right now, I had 3 pads that I cut out last time that are a little bit too wide. I've got them lined up here on the plasma table, and I'm going to see about cutting off about 1/4 inch on this row of three pads. I'd like to rescue them from the scrap bin. We'll see if I can do this. I can cut a straight line on the plasma cutter. It lets you do that. Set it up and just cut a straight line. I think I've got these aligned. I think they'll hold still for the cutting process. So we're just going to give this a shot first before I start cutting out more pads. I'm going to see if I can rescue these. that worked fine. So you can see what an evolution it is to get a sheet of this steel on the table. This was a piece of 3/8 inch. So full 4x4 sheet is 375 pounds. So that's half of that. So 185 pounds for that half a sheet. And I did make a change to my, if you look back on the channel, you'll see a video about this davit crane. And I made one change to it. There was a fixed link between these lower holes and the hole up here. So in order to change the elevation of the mast, you needed to pull a pin and change, lower it and replace it. What I did is I got a trailer jack, 2,000-pound trailer jack, and bolted it to here, welded on a bracket down here. So now I can use this crank to lower and raise the arm, which gives you much finer control of the elevation of the plate. The winch on here is kind of jerky because it's on and off. So it works great for picking stuff up, but setting it down on the table, you want a little more finesse. And that also allows me to change the elevation of the arm to a tall position, which I need it to get a full 4x4 sheet out of the rack, to a low position so it has the longest reach to reach over the table and set a sheet on here. And I just put the 3/8 on here. I picked up the 1/4, slid it back over on top of the 3/8. I wanted to get the 3/8 inside the edge over here because I usually start cutting in this corner and work my way to the right and backwards. As I use up this material, I'll pull it forward and slide that 1/4 inch off of this as I use it, or perhaps if I use enough of it I can just push it back and pull the 1/4 inch forward. Anyway, it gives me both pieces of metal on the table to work from. Okay, so I got a big mess of metal chips on the floor from that saw, and if you watch the saw, it cut off on me twice. Once it tripped the breaker in the cord reel on the ceiling, which is a 15 amp, and I think that saw pulls at least 15 amps. And I plugged it in the outlet over here and it stopped again, but that was the overload on the saw blade, on the saw motor itself. Didn't realize there was a reset on the saw motor. So I reset that. I plugged it into the other cord reel thinking it was, I had tripped the circuit breaker, but I didn't. That cord reel, I overloaded that one. So the cord reel is definitely only 10 or 15 amps. They're not going to take they're on a 20 amp circuit. They won't take 20 amps. So I'm learning that. Plugged it back in the wall, which is a 20 amp circuit, and once I reset the breaker on the saw, it worked fine. It's a little slow going through the 3/8 inch, but I'll tell you, it does a perfectly straight cut. There's a laser guide on it. It's pretty slick. I mean, cutting that 3/8 inch sheet any other way, I mean, I guess you could cut it with a torch or plasma torch or oxyacetylene torch, but it'd be a lot of work and not get nearly as clean a cut, as nice a cut as that saw. So I'm beginning to really like that saw. All right, we'll come back with some stuff on the plasma table here. Since I've got 3 track pads that I just trimmed, the next thing I'm going to do is cut out 3 of the track spacers. I just finished cutting one. It's right here. I'm going to cut 2 more. This is 3/8 inch material, and it seems to be cutting it fine. So we'll cut out 2 more spacers, and then we'll go to the bench and look at spacers and the track pads and how they fit together. Alright, let's see how we did here. Alright, looks like we got several we can go work with here. Alright, so here Alright, so this is approximately how I'm thinking that the track pads are going to... This is a spare piece of chain that was left over from the two track chains. So these are the risers, 3/8 inch risers, and then of course the 1/4 inch pads underneath. I want to tack all this together and see how it operates. It's not perfectly aligned or anything. When I go to actually build them, I will make a jig to put everything in so that they're properly aligned. But for the purposes of this test, as long as it's close, it should work fine. All right, so that certainly lets the track go concave enough. I'm afraid by the time I get done with this track, it's going to weigh 1,000 pounds. It's going to be heavy. Okay, so that's the 3 pads I rescued from the scrap bin, and it certainly can turn that way, can go concave that way. I don't think I need any more than that. All right, we could put the overlap strips on here and see what they look like. There should be 10 inches long. Let's cut a few of them. All right, so that's the idea for the overlap on the track. I don't know, this is I don't know whether the tracks will hit like that or whether they'll always go back like this. Do I need to worry about the tracks doing that? So that's a little bit of concern. I certainly don't want the tracks to do that, or like that, overlap the wrong direction. So the only way to prevent that is to make these pads wider, or make the pads pivot less. I don't want them to pivot less because I want them to go concave like that. Will they ever be put in a position where they might do that? And if so, then, you know, I would need to move these pads, either make these wider. Right now they're overlapping the next pad by 1/4 of an inch, and they have a 1/2 inch on the current pad. Now maybe that's doesn't need to be that much. Maybe that only needs to be 1/4 of an inch and then a 1/2 inch on the next pad. Decisions. Yeah, I'll grind one off and move it the other direction and see how. Or tack it over here and grind the welds off on this side. Well, it looks like there may always be a chance of this overlapping that way. To put this on one of the sprockets and run it around and see see how it works, to think some more about this. I don't think, there may be no way for it to get in a position where it would do that, overlap the wrong way. It might always, you know, overlap the correct way. I mean, I can't see how that might happen, but certainly wouldn't want that to happen. That would break the track. And it might also, if that's the case, then it might be safer not to try to do an overlap like that. Just leave a space and put grousers, weld grousers to here, rather than try to create this overlap. Putting this trial section of track on the front idler or on the rear sprocket reveals a problem with it, and that is that it's possible, if the track, it's actually backwards now. I was trying to run it this way just to see how it would look if it were underneath running this way. This is actually not how it will run. It will run the other way, in the other direction. In any case, I can see how coming around the sprocket, so as it comes around, coming uphill here on this part of the tractor, it's no problem. But if it were to go like this and go a little concave as it came off that front wheel, then you can see how that hits the overlap right there. Now, you continue far enough and it straightens out, but there's no guarantee that it would straighten out. So I think the idea of these overlap bars, I'm gonna pass on those. I think for the time being, the only way to solve that is to have this other track be recessed the other direction. And that's how they do tracks on bulldozers, is they recess one lip and excess the other lip. The two lips are bent in opposite directions, so they pass each other and can't get tangled up like this does. So short of using a very wide plate, I don't see any easy way to make that work. And of course, the wider the plate, the heavier it is. The track is going to be so heavy. I think for at least this first go around, to get this thing running, I think what I'm going to do is just use the plain pads, and then I will come back at some point and add grousers, 1/4 by 1/4 inch, or 1/2 by 1/2 inch, I guess. 1/4 would be too small. 1/2 by 1/2 bar stock, or maybe even pieces of rebar, be inexpensive to weld to the track. Might not look the greatest, but I think that's what I'm going to have to do. Come back and add grousers, build the track without these overlap strips. I think the width of the track pads right now is good. It gives me almost 3/4 of an inch between the pads and enough flexibility in the track for it to go concave if necessary. There'll be a gap between the pads as it goes around the sprocket or around the idler. I'm not so sure that that's too big a deal. The pads will be flat here to begin with, so they're not going to have all that much traction. And we'll come back and add grousers after we get the thing, I think, put together. I mean, as it is, the track's going to weigh 1,000 pounds. It's going to be very heavy. All right, guys, that's all the time we have this week. Made a lot of progress on the tractor by getting the chains fitted and verifying their operation using a drill to drive the transmissions. The controls work as expected. The left control controls the left track, the right control controls the right side. The tensioners work as I expected. The tension wheel is very stiff, so I think it's plenty strong. I was concerned, that it might not be with the tension arm set so low on the frame, but I think it's in a good spot, and it was effective at tensioning the track. I think the tracks work. I had them tensioned pretty tight. I think they work better with a little bit of slack in them. They fit around the sprockets and the idlers more easily. So I think that's the key, is arriving at the right tension for the track. I beveled the inside edges of the idlers so that the track will slide into them better. I think the next thing when we come back next time, I think it's cutting out pieces of track and building the first track. I ordered some more master links. I didn't have enough master links for this chain, so I called Red Boar Chain in Utah, and very nice people out there. Guy was really helpful, and so I got no affiliation with them, but they were helpful. So I've got a pack actually of 10 master links coming in case I mess some up or need some in the future. So when I get those master links, we'll cut out some more track pads, and we'll start, I think it'd be time to start putting together one of these tracks. I need to also work on the hood, the grill. I do have the grill. I do have the grill here on the bench, and there's my paint drop cloth. I'm getting ready to do some painting too, yellow paint. So this is the nose, the front nose piece of the grill, and this is the main grill casting. So I need to just wire brush those. This one's aluminum. This is actually cast iron. So I use a sander, clean those up and prime those, get them ready for paint. And getting close to start working on the engine as well. So those are the big things left to do. Build the tracks, get the dash and grill on, get the engine running so we can drive this sucker out of here. I'm getting anxious to do that, as I'm sure all you guys are too. All right, well, thanks for watching. I appreciate all the comments. Keep them coming. Thumbs up and a like would be wonderful. Share with your friends if you have friends with similar interests. And we'll see you guys next time.